paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderous scum. They're on giant death factories keeping babies alive. They're selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Literal vampire pot belly goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. I said certified freak. 7 days a week. Wet ass P word. Make that pull-out game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P word. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. Give me everything you've got for this wet ass P word. Beat it up, N-word, catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this P word right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card. Hop on top if I want to ride. I do a kegel while it's inside. Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes. This P word is wet, come take a dive. And continue along these lines. And it gets significantly more vulgar. Like, a lot more vulgar.
leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I'll barbecue your ass flat. I will cook your ass up so fast, and I'll tell them, well, I killed a cow out back, baby. You think Christ would eat somebody? He would never do that. I will. I'm ready to hang them up, gut them and skin them and chop them up. You know what? I'm ready. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat your ass. I will eat your leftist ass like corn on the cob. I'm ready. I will eat you. I will eat your ass. That's why I want the globalists to know. I will eat your ass first. I swear to God, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get my hands around your throat.
What rolls downstairs, a motor in pairs, rolls over your neighbor's dog? What's great for a snack and fits on your back? It's long, long, long. It's long, long. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's long, long. It's better than that, it's good. Everyone wants a long. You're gonna love it long. Come on and get your long. Everyone needs a long.
Log from Blammo.
It's another B-Word broadcast. Let's go! How's it going, everybody? How you doing? How you been? How are you? Welcome to the B-Word broadcast. It is January 6th. It is a Friday. That's right. We got a good stream here today. How's it doing, Demand Better? Good morning. Good morning. It is 10 o'clock. A bit of a late start for me today, but we're going to be streaming most of the day, watching the January 6th updates, seeing if there's like some sort of like vigil going on right now, and also watching Kevin McCarthy fail the same vote over and over and over again. We're making history. It's wild. It's crazy. It's quite the thing to see. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna take a look, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be good. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, I hope you are too. It's kind of another hazy, gray, sucky day here in Montreal. We had a wicked ice storm that came through and just made it inhospitable outside. Absolutely impossible to walk around. So we're getting cozy. We're having a nice long stream today. Chilling, lots of stuff breaking. There's a Vice interview with victims of Andrew Tate, who are alleging SA. So all sorts of stuff to chew into. And I think Andrew Callahan has an interview with NPR. So so much to look at, everybody. So much. I had to rework the intro music just because apparently you can't have swears in the first 30 to 60 seconds or first 30 seconds on YouTube videos. They are very much frowned on that. So, yeah. And also, my computer is dying, apparently. Nothing's working like it used to. I swear to goodness, I left for break and came back, and it's acting in a very sore way. So this might be my last stream for this week. I got the Poetry Slam coming up Saturday, and we'll be looking at, we'll mostly just be looking at the YouTube, because I'm going to be uploading the poems that are performed. And it's the qualifiers for the individual Poetry Slam. So it's big news. It's going to be great. It's going to be interesting. I'm super excited for it. The winner will get $300 and will be invited to Vancouver to the Versus Festival to compete in the National Individual Poetry Slam, SIPS as it's called. And the winner of that goes to the Internationals. So it's a whole circuit. It's really exciting for the poets. I'm excited for them. And yeah, it's going to be a really good show. So yeah. We got a bunch of content, a bunch of Varia stuff. Things are going to start popping up at noon. So in about 2 hours, we'll be able to watch the House floor as they try to figure... I guess they're going to just keep voting. I hope something has happened. They're supposed to be celebrating. And yeah, so we got a bunch of different things that have popped off overnight. Good stories, interesting ones, and then we'll get to the main chunk, section A. But yeah, how you doing? You got a good weekend planned? You excited? Got anything exciting lined up? I just have the slam, and I'm hoping to, I don't know, have a dinner party, or at least invite a friend over for food, make some tasty snacks. So yeah, let's get into it. Get into some of the stories I've got lined up. Okay, so yeah, let's go to the first story. I thought this was interesting. South Carolina Supreme Court strikes down the state abortion ban. I'm leaning right into the camera. There we go. The South Carolina Supreme Court on Thursday struck down a ban on abortion after 6 weeks, ruling the restriction enacted by the Deep South state violates a state constitutional right to privacy. And that's, I'm pretty sure, what Roe v. Wade was, the logic Roe v. Wade hung on. The decision marked a significant victory for abortion rights advocates suddenly forced to find safeguards at the state level after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June. With federal abortion protections gone, Planned Parenthood South Atlantic sued in July under the South Carolina Constitution's right to privacy. Restrictions in other states are also facing challenges, some as a matter of religious freedom. But since the High Court's momentous decision in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, no state court until Thursday in South Carolina had ruled definitively whether a constitutional right to privacy, a right not explicitly enumerated in the U.S. Constitution, extends to abortion. Quote, Planned Parenthood will keep working day by day and state by state to safeguard that right for all people, said Alexis McGill Johnson, president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America. The 3-2 decision comes nearly 2 years after the Republican governor, Henry McMaster, signed the restriction into law, banning abortions after cardiac activity is detected. And that stuff's really annoying because the cardiac activity, it's like the heart hasn't even formed as far as I understand. It's just like electrical pulses where the heart is going to be. Like it's really bizarre stuff. It's like really advanced science being interpreted by, I don't know, people with very strict ideological agendas. It's annoying. Okay, so this was a weird story. A Toronto man used COVID relief money to import Donald Trump branded gun parts through the mail. Like, what? Sorry, say what now? He did the huh? Trump the 45th. Oh yeah, brother. Oh yeah. That's a sweet weapon there. What can I say? It's got the American flag in it. A Toronto man is becoming our Florida man. A Toronto man who used COVID relief funds to buy and illegally import gun parts from the southern United States, including a Donald Trump branded semi-auto pistol, is now looking at a penitentiary sentence. Nice. We got him. All these guns that are flowing into the country. It's because of people from Etobicoke. Is that how you pronounce that? 31-year-old, quote, used postal services to commit these crimes, says the Crown Attorney. Oh boy. He could have assembled 4 fully operational handguns that had the potential to end up on the street. 3 of them were Glocks and one was a Glock 19 Gen 4 Trump edition, bearing the name and engraved head of the former US president. That's ridiculous. No criminal record. Okay, so he was just fascinated with it. He went to a firing range, became enamored. After that, he said he tried to obtain a firearms license, but didn't get a call back. It's probably a bad sign. All right. Got him. Whoa. Prosecutor seeking a 4-year prison sentence. Holy shit. Wow, that's crazy. Wow. Yeah, don't import handguns into the country. Yeah, we don't want to become like America, like Chirac. So it's real, everybody. There is a new world order, and it's Japan that's calling for it, and to counter authoritarian regimes of all things. Japan's Minister of Economy, Trade, and Industry, Yasutoshi Nishimura, speaks to the Center of Strategic and International Studies regarding Japan's 2023 G7 priorities on January 5th at CSIS headquarters in Washington. So there you have it, everybody. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Okay. All right, that's way better. And then just moving some things around here. Okay. So this is a story I wanted to dig into a bit more. It's from CNN. Oh, and is there a live footage? let's see. Okay, it's just gotta load up. Just loading up. There we go. Okay. It's a preview. Expires in 10 minutes. Weak. Okay, I'll look at that after. We got this Wall Street Journal story. Are those picked up by CNN? A Wall Street Journal reporter was handcuffed by police while standing outside a Chase bank. The newspaper is demanding answers. The Wall Street Journal is demanding answers from the Phoenix Police Department after an officer detained and handcuffed one of its reporters outside a Chase bank, an incident that press freedom advocates say raises First Amendment concerns and mirrors a larger, growing hostility from local law enforcement towards journalists across the country. Anyone surprised? Is anyone surprised? Anyone surprised? The incident between the Journal reporter Dion Raboy and the Phoenix officer occurred in late November, but just became public this week after ABC affiliate KNXV reported on the matter. In a statement, the Journal said that it is, quote, deeply concerned with how its reporter was treated and has asked the Phoenix Police Department to conduct an investigation. Quote, no journalist should ever be detained simply for exercising their First Amendment rights, the Journal said. In response, the Phoenix Police Department, which is being probed by the DOJ to determine whether its officers retaliate against people, quote, for conduct protected by the First Amendment, stressed to me that the incident occurred on private property, but that the department had nonetheless shared concerns raised by the paper with the Professional Standards Bureau and that an investigation is underway. At the crux of this particular matter is a rather innocent act of journalism. While visiting family in Arizona for the Thanksgiving holiday, Raboy, who is black, attempted to interview passersby on a sidewalk outside a Chase branch for an ongoing story about savings accounts, he told the Phoenix affiliate. Representatives from the bank approached him and asked what he was doing, and Raboy said he identified himself as a journalist. Raboy said he was never asked to leave, but an officer soon arrived on the scene. Raboy said he volunteered to simply stop reporting from the scene, but video captured by a bystander shows the responding officer handcuff him, put him in the back of a police vehicle, and even threatened to shove him in if he did not comply. The video shows Raboy repeatedly identified himself as a reporter for the Journal, but the officer did not appear to care. The bystander, who began recording the incident, was also threatened with arrest. Ultimately, after about 15 minutes, when other officers showed up, Raboy was allowed to walk free. A representative for Chase told me Thursday that the bank did apologize to Raboy over the incident, but the local police department has thus far refrained from doing so. In a letter dated December 7th from Journal Editor-in-Chief Matt Murray to Phoenix Police Department Interim Chief Michael Sullivan, the editor described the officer's conduct as, quote, offensive to civil liberties, and demanded to know what steps the department will take to, quote, ensure that neither Mr. Raboy nor any other journalist is again subjected to such conduct. The Journal told me Thursday that Murray has not received a response from Sullivan. Yikes. For press freedom advocates, the incident is representative of countless others that take place around the U.S. each year. According to the U.S. Press Freedom Tracker, at least 218 journalists have been arrested in the country since 2020. Whoa, holy shit. Bruce Brown, the executive director of the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, told me in a statement that the, quote, alarming number of incidents we've seen over the last several years where police have detained, arrested, or assaulted journalists who are doing their jobs threatens to chill this kind of essential news gathering. He added, it's time for the law enforcement community to hold itself accountable for its actions. The Phoenix Police Department can start now. Dang. Do we have that video? Raboy? Yeah, we do. There it is. Or is it just... No, it's just the same. but it has like a play logo. What? Okay, let's see here. Wow, dang.
He was gonna leave. This is ridiculous. He's a reporter, and I heard him say he was gonna leave.
Yeah, I told you I didn't realize I was on private property. I will leave. I'll walk away.
He's also doing literally nothing, like nothing wrong. No, he said he was gonna leave. You did not need to cuff him. You absolutely did not need to cuff him. Hey, what's your name so I can send this to you? Dion Ramon? Okay. Can I find you? Okay. This is ridiculous.
Wall Street
This
Journal.
is the most obscene thing I think I've ever seen.
Rabuin.
As I said to you very clearly, I was never asked to leave.
I'm fine where I am. I'm not doing anything
You
wrong.
want to get arrested as well?
You know, my... I mean,
I'm gonna grab your ID. I will. Don't give you permission to.
This is messed up.
this is really ridiculous, sir. He is not hurting anybody.
This doesn't mean you're going to jail. I don't want to get. It just means you're detained.
Sir, he's not doing anything wrong.
I followed your orders. I said I would leave. No one asked me to leave. If they had, I told you back there I would have left. Had they asked me to leave, I would have left. Right now, charges for what? Take a seat. What would I give you?
Sir, I heard him say he would leave.
Let's have him walk away from us right now. It is an option, but if you don't sit down, it's not going to be an option. It's very simple. I'm being very straightforward with you. Okay, well, I'm trying to take a seat. I'm trying to.
Sir, I heard him say he would leave. I heard him say that. I came back out because I had a bad feeling about this.
I made it very clear to you that I would leave. They asked me to put your feet in. I'm not going to say anything. I've done nothing wrong. I haven't committed any crimes. You're making this way more difficult. No, you're making it way more difficult than asking the officers. You're on private property that you were asked to leave. Right, I was not asked to leave. That's what I told you. I told you I was never asked to leave the property. And no one was asked to leave inside. If you asked me to leave, I would have left. This was very simple. No, they didn't. They never asked me to leave. They said they were going to go inside and talk to someone. Then you showed up, and I said I would leave. I'm not going to give you more chances. You're not going to give me a chance for what? I haven't done anything wrong. You're going to get an additional charge. But what? The charge of what? What's the charge of into the bar? What would the charge be? What have I done? What am I resisting? I ordered for you to put your feet in. What am I doing? Why am I being I'm going to trespass you from this property. All you had to do was ask me to leave.
How can you charge them for trespassing if you haven't asked them to leave?
Right, why was that not an option? If I'm being trespassed, right, why am I being detained for trespassing instead of just being allowed to leave? What crime? The crime of trespassing. So because I tried to leave, I'm being detained and stopped from leaving.
Make it make sense.
I tried to walk away when you grabbed me and put me in cuffs. I tried to walk away. I will walk away now. I told you multiple times I'm willing to walk away. At no point have I refused to leave. At no point have I said I will not leave, I will not go. I said happily I would have walked away had they asked. Okay, so then let me walk away from this. I'm going to after I run your name and I give them your name. Why do you need to run my name to give anyone my name? Because you are being trespassed. Right, again, I'm being asked to leave.
I can't do this logic, man. It's like I'm holding you against your will for the crime of trespassing when you are clearly trying to leave. You must now stay in order for me to charge you with the crime of wanting to stay. Like it's psychotic. It's actually insane. Cops have no chill. Okay, let's get to the main story of the day. We got a bunch of content, bunch of people reacting to how can I say, the House vote. So let's start with some Fox News, everybody.
Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel joining us now. Ronna, good to have you here. Thank you very much. Your reaction to no majority emerging in the first House for the Speaker vote for Kevin McCarthy.
Well, I look at the contrast with the Democrats who very clearly are going to elect Hakeeeeeeem Jeffries. And I think the number one thing I always hear on the road is, why do Democrats always seem to stick together and Republicans don't? And the American people want us to take the reins of the House. We just retired Nancy Pelosi. It was done in large part because of Kevin McCarthy and his work. And I think any delay is a delay in getting the business and the work done of the American people. I don't see policy differences that are dividing these votes right now. Kevin wants to tackle the border. He wants to get rid of the 87,000 IRS agents. So I think as the votes continue, he's going to continue to bring members his way, I hope. He is the one who retired Nancy Pelosi. He was the minority leader. He switched it so that we can have a Republican speaker. And you see broad support for him. The vast majority of members support Kevin.
Ronna, you know, we see up there that 12 people have voted others. And if I could just bring up the graphic on the screen, we as of this morning, had 14 Republicans who were either firmly opposed to Kevin McCarthy as Speaker or were certainly leaning in that direction. Can we bring that graphic up? Is that possible? So we can get a look at, there's the 14 who were either skeptical of or outright opposed to Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Congressman Dan Crenshaw was on Fox and Friends this morning, and he said that doing what they're doing plays right into the Democrats' hands. Listen to how he put it here.
If I didn't know any better, it's like the Democrats paid these people off. Hey, let's pay them off. Let's make it look like the Republicans can't govern and don't deserve any gavels whatsoever. That's what it makes it look like. Again, their demands are foolish. Their demands are inside baseball procedural issues.
So speak to that, if you would, Ronna, as we go back to the vote count here with 127 for McCarthy, 120 for Jeffries, 12 voting for Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs, and other folks. The opponents of McCarthy really can't even articulate what it is that they want here. And in doing this, what are they doing to the Republican Party?
Well, I'm in Michigan right now, and I was just talking to somebody who said this makes the party look bad. We just elected Republicans to take over the House, and why can't you guys unify? And it's division for division's sake. I'm not seeing a policy separation. Kevin is certainly not a moderate. He is somebody who has tackled the border, who has tackled big issues. He also raised the money and recruited many of the candidates that were just elected, not just in 2022, but also in 2020. So I will say this. We have a big task ahead of us in 2024 to take back the White House. The Senate map gets infinitely better, and we have to keep the House. And every day that we are delaying the agenda that the American people elected Republicans to govern with is a day that we are not getting the work done of the American people. And it's 5, it's 10. The vast majority of the members support Kevin. These 10 who don't, I hope they come around, because we have to unify. We have to unify. I think this is the biggest message coming out of this midterm. If you look at all the split tickets, if you look at states where Republicans refuse...
The saying is, like, Democrats fall in love, but Republicans fall in line. Like, it's wild to hear that they're starting to fracture.
...to vote for other Republicans. In a large part, that's why we didn't get the wins that we wanted in this election, because of Republican on Republican infighting, and it is carrying into this Speaker election, and I think it's something that's disheartening and is not bringing people to our party. We need to show a vision of positivity and an agenda of getting things done for the American people if we're going to continue to get elected in these next elections, and we need to elect a speaker.
Ronna, hardline members of the House Freedom Caucus, as we have seen in recent days, have indicated over the last few days that after this first vote, which is going to conclude shortly, that they would nominate a new candidate around who they hoped Republicans could support. Can you add any color to that on what we should know?
Yeah, I don't know who that would be, Sandra. I mean, the reality is Kevin has a huge group of Republican Congress people who support him, who are not going to move. They are not going to go for any other candidate. So when he's at, over 200 votes for him, and there's maybe 10 or 12 that are differing, The majority are going to stick with Kevin, and I don't think they're budging. So this could go into multiple votes. And why are they with Kevin? Because he was the one traveling the country. He was the one raising millions and millions of dollars. He is the one that just secured a Republican majority in the House. I think a lot of us did that together, but he is the one who did the work. And I think a lot of these members are very, very, very loyal to him, on top of the fact that he's going to be a bold leader as Speaker, and he is going to do the things that Republican voters want Republican leadership to do.
You know, Rod, I mentioned a moment ago that a lot of these opponents of Kevin McCarthy can't really articulate what they want. You know, we had on Fox and Friends this morning one of the opponents of McCarthy who just basically said we can't keep doing things the way that we've been doing them without pointing to specific details. They do have some demands. One of the demands is that they want the threshold to, quote, vacate the chair, that is to bring to a vote changing the Speaker, to a threshold of one member of Congress.
Just one member.
McCarthy offered 5, down from 50% of the caucus. I mean, when you take a look at demands like that, do they seem reasonable to you, or is this, as Dan Crenshaw put it this morning, just an exercise in self-aggrandizement?
Yes.
Well, I agree with Dan. This is not something that the American people care about right now. I mean, we are still dealing with our kids having deficits after the pandemic. We have a border crisis. We have recessions, a recession looming. We have massive layoffs happening across the country, and we still have an energy issue with gas prices being high. The people in the country right now are looking at this and saying, what is going on?
True.
Why can't this party get it together and unify so that we can hold Biden accountable? Remember, Republicans, we have so much more in common than what divides us right now. And if we can't come together and take on the Biden administration, the people who elected us are being let down. And that is what they are seeing right now because of these holdouts who are refusing to elect a Speaker of the House for the first time in 100 years. I think we need to come together. We need to unify. We need to unify in our opposition to the Democrats. But right now, this is not helping.
They need to unify everybody.
To go back to my last question about who could emerge here in the coming
Republicans in disarray
days, referencing the House Freedom Caucus, indicating that they would nominate a new candidate. Are you right now rejecting the idea that anyone other than McCarthy can lead Republicans in this new Congress?
Yeah, that's the question I have. Like, if they hold out long enough and it goes a week, 2 weeks, real pain starts to happen, like, and McCarthy steps down, let's say, who's going to replace him?
Don't see movement from the McCarthy camp. I don't see many.
I think last time, like, John Boehner stepped down and committed to Paul Ryan before Paul Ryan even announced.
Members who are going to abandon Kevin, just like these 5 holdouts or the 5 who are saying we won't vote for Kevin. There's a lot more people who are saying it's got to only be Kevin. So I just don't see any movement there right now.
Is that what they're called now?
Obviously, this will go into multiple votes. But everybody needs to remember the American people just retired Nancy Pelosi and elected Republicans to lead the House of Representatives, and every day we are delaying, we are letting down those voters, and this is what we need to be focused on, the voters and the people who just retired Nancy Pelosi and put Republicans in charge.
So, Rhonda,
Republicans are standing in the way of putting Republicans in charge, and this is the Democrats' fault.
The fact that the vote is going the way it is would seem to be an indication that this is not a vote for somebody else. This is a vote against McCarthy. And that if McCarthy were to continue to stay in the race, he's never going to make it to Speaker. You know, Chad Perkin was talking about going back to examples of 1849 and 1856 to describe where we are here in 2023.
I don't think, and I think what happened last time, it was like 9 votes or 8 votes, and it took months. And by the 8th vote, they had selected a new speaker, and Republicans blew through that record in days.
Is there a potential consensus candidate out there, a Steve Scalise, a Lee Zeldin, somebody like that, who could get the votes necessary to become Speaker?
Well, I've been getting a history lesson watching your show and listening. I didn't know about the 1856, that vote that lowered the threshold. I think we're in for a long run. I really don't see many of these members because I've been with them. I campaigned with Kevin.
All right, we're taking bets, chat. How long is this going to go?
You look at candidates like Juan Ciscomani, or you look at Wesley Hunt, or you look at these candidates that Kevin recruited and got over the finish line. Look at California. Duarte, Young Kim, Michelle Steele, Ken Calvert, Mike Garcia. I mean, these are pickups that we got under Kevin McCarthy's leadership.
The cope is wild. Like, it was supposed to be a red wave, and you're counting your wins with the 5-seat majority. Like, come on.
I don't think many of them are going to budge.
Cope.
So I know we're focused on these holdouts against Kevin, but the vast majority of members are strongly supporting Kevin.
Right,
so I think we're in for a lot of votes.
But it is the holdouts that are preventing him from becoming speaker, not the people who are supporting him. And if they don't change, he's toast.
True.
I'm hopeful that they will change. I am hopeful that they will listen to the American people who said,
They'll just
we
capitulate.
wanted a Republican speaker. Please give us that. Find a way to repair your differences. Find whatever division that
There's no reasoning with Lauren Boebert or Matt Gaetz. Like, have you tried?
you have and solve it. And let's unite and remember what we're here to do, which is take on the Biden administration and work on the
Well,
behalf
who's
of the
going to do
American
that,
people.
Rana?
We
Who's
got
going to
it.
unite the party?
We got to secure the border.
I mean, why is your party at this point today?
You know, I think the vast majority of the party is united. I mean, you're seeing these few holdouts. So I think Kevin's going to continue to have discussions. He's going to work with these members. And I think you're going to see other members like Jim Jordan and others continue to talk to these other members.
The only reason this is happening is because there was not a red wave. If Kevin McCarthy had been, had another 10 seats, they wouldn't have been able to pull this stunt.
And say, let's come together, because right now we need the American public to know that we can govern. And as you have multiple votes, I think you're going to see more and more people come over. But I'm hopeful that that happens. I think that's what should happen. And I know that's what the voters want. They want us to start governing.
So Ronald, let me just finish off here by pointing out that this is not a new problem in the Republican Party when they have control of Congress. There were years past, in the not too distant past, where bills were brought to the floor by Boehner, I recall, that failed. And the Nancy Pelosi rule was you never bring a bill to the floor unless you know you've got the votes to pass it.
And she never broke that rule.
So this is something that didn't just happen. This has been going on for years. And whereas at the same time, you've got the Democrats, as you pointed out, operating in lockstep with each other, not just in the House, but the House together with the Senate.
This follows like months of hyperventilating over the squad and how radical they were, and they're representative of the Dems, broader agenda. It's like, okay, buddy.
Pelosi and Schumer were always on the same page.
I can barely
until
keep up.
Republicans start to function like that, can you ever expect to effectively govern?
No, I think we have to start working together. I mean, I look at states like Arizona right now. I mean, look at Arizona. The top vote getter in the whole state was a Republican. She got 1,375,000 votes. And the other Republicans that were running in that state, you know who didn't vote for them? Republicans. So if we're so hateful towards each other that other Republicans won't vote for us, then we're doing exactly what the Democrats want, right? And so this scorched earth, I'm going to take on every other Republican instead of focusing on who voters want us to focus on, which is the Democrats. Remember, the Democrats who are leaving our border open. They're the ones who kept our kids out of school.
We need to hate in the right direction. This is a real self-aware wolves here, I never thought the party of face-eating leopards would start eating our faces. I cannot believe this stuff. It is wild. Okay, we got a post in the Rolling Stone by Ryan Bort, proving the Simpsons joke that Bort is indeed a common name. And it's actually going to riff off of what Ronna McDaniel was saying from Fox News about how this contingency is just sort of in it for themselves and just like trying to, use this opportunity, this moment of leverage in order to like big up their own numbers to like fundraise. And here we go. Anti-McCarthy Republicans are raising money off stonewalling Congress. So, should be good. Okay, so let's give this a quick read. Shouldn't be surprising that Andy Biggs and Matt Gaetz are peppering their supporters with emails as they blocked the House from commencing business. It's a stunt, of course. The 20 or so Republicans who have opposed Kevin McCarthy's bid for the speakership and thus prevented the House of Representatives from swearing in its members and beginning its business have claimed they're doing so in the name of draining the swamp. They put forth no viable alternative, nor have they been swayed by any of the concessions McCarthy had made in an effort to woo them. They have, however, received plenty of press for their efforts. Representatives Andy Biggs of Arizona and Gates of Florida, two of the staunchest opponents of McCarthy's bid for the speakership, are now trying to cash in on all the attention. "We blocked Kevin McCarthy from becoming Speaker of the House," Biggs wrote in an email, "but now we conservatives must lead the fight to get the leadership we deserve." He then asked for money. Biggs too. "Fellow American, we done blocked Kevin McCarthy from becoming Speaker of the House." This is awesome. "We're saving this country from Joe Biden, and the left is going to be tough. That's why we need your help." This is the meme of like the person riding the bicycle and then sticking a branch in the front tire and falling over and then holding their knee and be like, jeez. Matt Gaetz is raising money off of opposing McCarthy. Here it is. Patriot. Who reads an email addressed Patriot and goes, "Oh, that's me. Oh, he's talking to me. That's me. I'm a patriot. I love my country. I love my country so much. Oh my God. I can't stop thinking about my country." Just the word patriot gets me all excited. Patriot, maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who has sold shares of himself for more than a decade to get it. I have no regrets about casting my vote on the House floor against Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. Join me. Don't cave to Kevin McCarthy. That's right. As a proud Florida man, I know what I speak on this. I know what I speak on this. If you want to drain the swamp, you cannot put the biggest alligator in charge of the exercise. I've heard him like say that too, like in press. That's funny. Oh man, it's so shopped. It doesn't even make sense. Why exercise? But that's exactly what we will get with the McCarthy speakership. We're talking about someone who the corrupt DC special interests can always count on be their lapdog. Someone whose donors pushed vaccine mandates on my constituents and on every American citizen across the country. Someone who worked against electing America First Republicans across the country last year. It's the same line. Someone who's so close with the lobbyists that he rooms with them. Wow. That's spicy. He rooms with them, everybody. Who knows what that means? Republicans aren't the only ones trying to parlay the party's chaos into financial support. Representative Hakeeeeeeem Jeffries of New York, who has received the most votes in every speakership ballot thus far, has been sending out emails too. Both sides, everybody. What does Hakeem sound like? Jen Bendery. See, there you go. There's a smart. That's better. You don't just call them Patriot, you call them by their name. And you use some sort of software to go grab the name from the email. Yeah, there you go. Smart. Jen Bendery, space. Republicans have now failed 9 times to elect a Speaker of the House. This hasn't happened in over 100 years. I'll be blunt. Republicans are incapable of governing, and they're putting politics over the American people. But if Democrats stick together in this historic moment, we have an opportunity to show how powerful we are. So, Jen Bendery, space, I still need 321 more donations to show that Democrats are united and ready to lead our country. Damn, that's a good ad. 321? So they've got like another piece of code that's sort of like, all right, we need about 1,000 donations. We'll hit up these emails. And in the email, oh, wow, that's crazy. Please help me reach this important goal by 11:59 p.m. We've only got until midnight. Or else the whole dang thing's gonna blow. It's equally silly. Okay, so that's that story. Let's move on. I thought that was entertaining. Here's the man himself. So he's getting heckled while he nominates Trump for Speaker of the House. I kid you not, he tried to nominate Trump. It's just such a deeply unserious thing. Like, even for your colleagues who are on your side, they're all gonna be like, bro, what are you doing?
And so I rise to nominate Donald Trump for the position of Speaker of the House. And
let me fix a thing or two.
For all of the vitriol that we hear from the media and at times the left, there were great moments of bipartisanship under the Trump presidency. And the Democrat nominee for Speaker knows that well because he led valiantly on the efforts for criminal justice reform, and I was honored to join him. And I know no matter who's sitting in that Speaker chair, we got a lot of work to do on that very issue. We took a first step, but there's a second step and a third step to take, and I'm glad that we were able to work with President...
Whoa, is that it, or is there a fourth and a fifth step to take? Because then that might mean I'm in for a sixth and the seventh, in for a penny, in for a promenade.
Trump with Republicans and with Democrats to provide real outcomes for Americans, to create greater prosperity and more opportunity. I also care deeply about President Trump's focus on our nation's veterans. It seemed for far too long on the campaign trail, veterans were disregarded, forgotten about. When we would get elected to office, their issues would not always rise and get center stage, but we were able to pass veterans accountability measures. We were able to actually get people fired at the VA who weren't doing their job. What a great thing that would be to extend and continue to nourish. President Trump oriented our views on trade so that we actually put the American people first, not foreign interests abroad or special interests here at home. President Trump knew that we had to confront China, that China had already engaged in a trade war against us, but it was a war that we were surrendering, and so we started to fight back. He stood with our farmers, and on foreign policy, we stopped trying to find a new Jeffersonian democracy to build out of sand and blood and Arab militias in the Middle East. Matter of fact, President Trump, I believe, is the first president in my lifetime that didn't start any new wars. This is an issue that I know unites some elements of the right and left for the benefit of our communities.
You tried to overthrow our government. Got him. Whoever shouted that is a champ. On the eve of January 6th.
This government for far too long has been deeply corrupt. This town has been deeply corrupt. The way people get leadership positions and chairmanships and opportunities to be able to morally preen has been by accepting
morally preen
lobbyist and special interest money and redistributing that money as currency for favors.
Yeah, I mean, that's, look at the tax code. But yeah, whoever shouted that, what a champ. What a champ. You tried to overthrow our government. Okay, next up we've got Ben Shabibo. Even he doesn't know what's going to happen. Like, where are they getting their marching orders from?
Well, we enter day 3 of the ongoing speakership saga.
Now.
According to the Wall Street Journal, negotiations were set to continue between Kevin McCarthy and his detractors on Thursday, with some lawmakers expressing hope they could see a resolution to the speaker fight soon, both sides saying that it could take days. At this point, the discussions between McCarthy's allies and his opponents heated up after McCarthy did not reach the majority in 3 series of votes for the speaker post on Tuesday, nor another 3 on Wednesday. So we've already had 6 votes on who should be the Speaker of the House. McCarthy has come up short each and every time. It seems like there is a solid and not particularly growing chorus of people who don't want McCarthy to be Speaker, or who are at least using this vote as leverage in order to
what do you call them? The vocal minority?
At concessions. And this is 2 separate groups. It's about 20 Republicans right now who aren't supporting McCarthy. Probably half of them just don't want McCarthy to be Speaker. And another half of them want to exact concessions from McCarthy that would be more conservative in orientation. And
the craziest one, I think, was like a concession that if, let's say, Kevin McCarthy becomes the speaker, then all it would take is one person to like call a vote. To be like, let's do this all again.
There is a very large difference between these two groups. One of them has a strategy, one of them does not. The group that wants to exact concessions from McCarthy, this is just traditional, typical politics, right? You have leverage over McCarthy, and now you can get out of him an additional couple of seats on the Appropriations Committee.
Sure.
Or you can get a commitment from
That's
him
politics,
on
baby.
not bringing to the floor omnibus packages. This stuff is good and fine and useful. And this is the sort of stuff that McCarthy has been attempting to negotiate with this group for quite a while. And there's been movement on that front. Actually, Politico was reporting as of this morning that it looks like there's a deal in the works, at least for about half of those 20 Republicans, to come on board with McCarthy, given that they are given enough concessions. So according to Politico, there are a bunch of new concessions that are on the table. Here's what's being discussed, according to one well-placed source familiar with the talks. Keep in mind, negotiations are ongoing and fluid. A one-member motion to vacate. The GOP leader appears to have finally acquiesced to a demand to lower the threshold needed to force a vote ousting a speaker to just one member, while McCarthy originally...
Another YouTuber with the woke leftist brainworms. Oh, yeah, it's true. Oh, geez. I wrote a whole poem about, actually, brainworms. But yeah, I've been in discussions on Twitter, often with conservatives or right-wingers, just trying to get an answer what they think wokeism is. So if you wanna have a crack at it, Greg, welcome to the stream.
Originally indicated restoring the one-member motion to vacate was a red line. His allies now argue there's not a huge practical difference.
And hey, we're watching Ben Shabibo, so why are you complaining? It's good content.
In this and his previous offer requiring 5 members to trigger the vote. So Nancy Pelosi, upon taking office in 2018, she decided to increase the threshold for essentially a no-confidence motion against the Speaker of the House. McCarthy was seeking to maintain that. Many in the House Freedom Caucus, many of McCarthy's opponents wanted to lower it back down to one member. McCarthy, presumably seeking to avoid an embarrassing vote every 2 months when one member decides that they're going to initiate some sort of vote of no confidence. He wanted to raise the threshold, but now it appears he is willing to maybe lower the threshold again. Rules Committee seats for the Freedom Caucus. McCarthy apparently is prepared to give the House Freedom Caucus a couple of seats on the powerful House Rules Committee, which oversees the amendment process on the floor, which would be good. Frankly, I mean, more amendments on the floor would be useful considering how many bad omnibus packages come down that don't have any amendment process that is actually given to them. Now, again, a lot of this is paring away the power of the Speaker. And as we have seen already, the Republican Party has almost no power over its own membership. So the fact that the Speaker is now going to reflect the position of the Republican Party more generally is not a great shock. The Speaker of the House used to be able to wield all sorts of power over his membership. Nancy Pelosi was actually amazingly good at wielding power over her membership because mainly she was an incredible fundraiser, and this meant that she could either withdraw money from particular candidates or give money to particular candidates. She would withdraw committee assignments, switch.
And like that was one of the first things I noticed between the different campaign. Well, I could tell you the first bit. I haven't memorized all of it because I just finished it. It's not totally done, but I'll tell you the parts that I memorized. It's like, this poem is a virus. The present times require us to inoculate against the news that circulates online. Some viewpoints can poison your mind through your iris. I got tired of this, so I designed this poem in a writer's lab. Sound-born, spread through speech and word of mouth, it's out of reach of technocrats due to its advanced poetic techniques. That's a good little bit. That's a good little start to it.
Committee assignments, use whatever power is available in order to cudgel everybody into line. Republicans traditionally are not as good at this, and it certainly has been true since the end of the Gingrich era. McCarthy now wants to give, apparently he's willing to give the House Freedom Caucus a couple of seats on the House Rules Committee. There are also talks about giving a third seat to a conservative close to the Freedom Caucus, but not in it, somebody like Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky. Apparently there is a struggle right now between the Freedom Caucus and...
But I do love me poetry lovers. Who-wee. Oh, yeah, brother.
And McCarthy saying, I want to pick those members, and the Freedom Caucus saying, we want to pick those members. They also want to vote on term limits. There's a key demand from Representative Ralph Norman, who's proposed a constitutional amendment limiting lawmakers to 3 terms in the House. Now, again, it would take an actual constitutional amendment in all likelihood for term limits to become the law of the land, and it's going nowhere in the Senate. So McCarthy can easily say, fine, we'll have a vote on it, and then the vote just goes dead in the Senate. And again, none of that would be a giant shock.
Do you think they're gonna vote McCarthy in as Speaker of the House today?
Big one, and this is the big positive one, would be a major change to the appropriations process. Fears of another $1 trillion+ omnibus spending bill have been the major driver of the conservative backlash to McCarthy. The brewing deal includes a promise for standalone votes on each of the...
I mean, it's funny to hear him complain about omnibus bills because there's that one time when the Republicans passed a tax plan with literal scribbles in the margins affecting like hundreds of millions of dollars. Just like straight up the night before the vote, like just like writing in pen. This is law now.
12 yearly appropriations bills, which would be considered under what is known as an open rule, which would allow floor amendments to be offered by any lawmaker. Conservatives also want a concession to carve out earmarks included in those packages for separate votes, although it's unclear if they'd be voted on as one package or separately. Now, again, all this is going to make legislation very, very unworkable. It's going to be very unwieldy. I don't have a problem with it being unworkable and unwieldy. There's going to come a point where McCarthy is going to have to pass some of these votes. And what's likely to happen in that case is that, let's say that they move forward with these appropriations bills, and all the Democrats vote against the appropriations bills, and they carve off another 15, 20 Republicans who won't vote for the appropriations bills. And suddenly we're in the position of a government shutdown. McCarthy doesn't want to preside over...
Man, I thought I had him on 1.25 speed. He talks so fast.
For another government shutdown, you'll get another bipartisan deal. You may end up back where you started, but at least people will have had their say, which I'm not opposed to in any way, shape, or form. There's one more big concession that apparently is coming from the Congressional Leadership Fund. The McCarthy-aligned Congressional Leadership Fund reached a deal with the Conservative Club for Growth, which had initially signaled opposition to Speaker McCarthy to stay out of open house primaries for safe Republican seats. So in the past, the Congressional Leadership Fund had poured in millions of dollars to back more establishment candidates against the Club for Growth, which was backing a lot of insurgent Tea Party-esque candidates. And now the Congressional Leadership Fund is committing to staying out of open primaries in very solidly held conservative seats. So is that going to land the plane? The problem is nobody really knows. This is the big issue. Because again, you have two groups here who are negotiating, and they're sort of pretending to be one group for purposes of solidarity, but it really is two groups. Right? Group one are the people who are attempting to exact concessions like the ones we just mentioned, which are good and useful, and that again is normal congressional.
Okay, yeah, but they should have done this behind closed doors, not publicly like failing the vote over and over again. But go on.
Bargaining and parlaying, and the other is people who just say never McCarthy, never McCarthy, never McCarthy, no matter what the concessions are. And
we all part of the Never Party.
There, I have serious questions about the strategy, as we'll get to in just one moment.
The Nevin Party.
So, first of all, the falsehood that McCarthy has made no concessions to this group already is not true. I mean, it's just not real. Representative Warren Davidson, Republican of Ohio, listed yesterday a bunch of the concessions McCarthy had already made to the people who are not interested in voting for him at this time.
Following the election, Kevin McCarthy engaged in that negotiation. He led the conference to adopt substantive reforms that will make our majority more effective. Let me list some of them. Scott Perry's proposal for additional conference meetings ahead of key votes, Bob Good's proposal on standalone appropriations bills, Andy Biggs' proposal limiting suspension waivers from committees, Chip Roy's proposal to make co-sponsored amendments in order. Affirm 72-hour publication of bills before calling for a recorded vote, an end to proxy voting.
Whoa.
So these are all concessions that McCarthy made, and the list goes on and on and on right here. So Representative Roy was asked last night by Brett Baier what he's hoping to achieve, and he says many of these concessions. And then he's asked the question by Brett Baier of Fox News, so if you get these concessions, will you and this group then vote for McCarthy? And the problem for Chip Roy is he's kind of negotiating on behalf of people who disagree with him. Many of them don't actually just want the concessions, they just don't want McCarthy. And herein lies the problem for McCarthy. He's negotiating with one group that's reasonable and wants concessions, and another group that just doesn't want McCarthy. The big concession is McCarthy steps aside. So how exactly is he supposed to negotiate all of that? And again, this is not coming from a place of animus against any of these Congress people. I know people in all three of these groups. I know people who are very strongly in support of McCarthy. I know people who are in the Chip Roy group, and I've been talking with them. I know people who are in the anti-McCarthy group, and I've been talking with some of them as well. So this notion that this is about animus against any one of these groups is wrong. I just think that two of these groups have a strategy, and one of these groups does not. The problem, of course, is that if you have enough people who don't have a strategy, and their strategy is essentially loud noises, this could force a very, very dangerous floor vote on the speakership, which I'll explain in just a second.
Here's
Chip Roy
hope
explaining
is not
what he wants, and Brett Baier saying, so if you get what you want, do you have the votes? And Chip Roy being like, I don't know.
We're having a conversation tonight. We're going to keep talking about it. We want Rules Committee changes. We want to protect the rules that we've already been able to advance. We want to make sure we have spending restraint, like the cut, cap, and balance from a decade ago. We're having those conversations as we speak, but we're not going to relent unless we can actually do our job and stop this town, this broken town, from rolling over the American people. Yeah. That's my job.
And if Kevin McCarthy says, you know what, I'll give you everything you want, what will you say?
Well, you mean give me everything I want, right? I mean, I've got to be able to go to the American people. But
what you want is not Kevin McCarthy.
I didn't say that. If I get everything that I want,
you didn't say that.
That's great. But we got to get to 218. So right now in the room, Brett, it's not just Chip Roy.
It's not just my feed that
Okay, that's the
gotta
point.
get fed.
And so Chip Roy is being reasonable. It's a lot of the other people who are out
He's like, you just gotta feed me.
there who are not particularly being reasonable at this point. By the way, we should mention at this point, it's not like Kevin McCarthy is a big lib inside the Republican caucus. Kevin McCarthy's Heritage Action score is 88%.
The
Steve Scalise's is
Heritage
90%. People are posing
Action
Steve
score?
Scalise is a possible replacement.
Gives me shivers.
88% makes you one of the more conservative
Do
members
they have a literal ideological purity test?
of the Republican House of Representatives. He has like an 86% score from the American Conservative Union. This isn't a person who's like wildly liberal on the far left.
He's on our side 86% of the time.
Of the Republican Party. The big rip on Kevin McCarthy is that he's a wheeler and a dealer. But in a moment where the party essentially exerts no influence over an entire cadre of its own members, you kind of have to be a wheeler and dealer to get there. So people are saying, well, why is McCarthy even bringing his own speakership up for a vote if he doesn't have the votes? Let me remind you, there is not a single Republican Speaker of the House candidate who's gotten a unanimous vote for their candidacy since John Boehner in January of 2011. It has been 11 years since then.
Wow.
John Boehner in 2013, when he was up for re-election for Speaker of the House, 12 Republicans defected against him. Right now, you have about 20 Republicans who are defecting against McCarthy. About 10 of those seem to be about solid defections. 8 to 10 of those are solid defections. Maybe as small as 5.
Yeah, for sure.
But the majority is so small at 222, and you have to get to 218, that 5 members of the House can stand against the other 217 members of the Republican caucus, and then demand that the candidate with 217 votes step aside in favor of an unnamed candidate who's not even declared as of yet. And if the 5 had another candidate they were putting up there, who I thought was stronger and better and more likely to actually get to 218, then, okay, fine. I'd be all in favor. That's fine. I'm always up for a better candidate. But so far, nothing remotely like that has been presented. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be getting into Wall.
All right, that's great. So that's Ben Shabibo being all upset. It's kind of funny. Next up, we got something a bit different here. I think somebody turned Logan Paul's scam into a working game.
I turned Logan Paul's Crypto Zoo scam into a real game.
Let's see.
Logan's fans were scammed out of millions.
I lost around $15,000 US.
I lost $25,000.
$120,000.
$500,000 Australian.
They were promised a game.
I think my game, place in our game. It's a really fun
His game.
Keep using a word there.
Game.
It's a game.
That game was never delivered, so I decided to make it myself.
Ooh.
First, how was it marketed?
Let me try to break it down for you. This is how it was supposed to work. You started by buying this crypto token called Zoo, which is their in-game currency. And you use Zoo coins to then buy egg NFTs, which you can then hatch to become animals.
Okay.
You then can breed those 2 animals to become hybrid animals. For example, if you breed a gorilla and a kitten, you get a Gore Kitty. And the more rare the NFT, the higher the daily yield of Zoo tokens that animal earns you every day. Theoretically, it works like almost like passive income. You can then burn your animal NFTs to release the Zoo they earned back to you, and from there you can invest it into eggs or just cash out.
It's a good idea.
Now I know what to make, but I had a fraction of the resources Logan had to put into this ambitious game, and he failed.
For the last 6 months, I've been working on my own NFT.
No,
project.
he didn't fail. It's coming out.
We have a massive team behind it, and are probably out
2023,
of pocket
everybody.
like $1 million.
A few hours later, I had a working game. You can hatch eggs to get animals of different rarities, breed those animals to make hybrids, burn cards to release their yield, and continue the real zoo circle of life. But it was lacking something. That art Logan bragged about.
Ooh.
We handmade
art
for the past 6 months, bro. 10 different artists.
Well, I didn't have a team of 10 artists, but I called my friend Merpley Derp.
All right, so I started off in Photoshop, and things were going pretty good.
All right.
But then I remembered that I have to make 136 of these.
Yikes.
And I'm just a mere mortal, and this quality is just not sustainable.
Yeah,
So I decided to call in a favor from this dude named Stable Diffusion. I tried to use Stable Diffusion through this website called Dream Studio.
What?
It gave me some real weird results and some straight up nightmare fuel.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, jeez.
So I thought I should probably change it up. After doing some research, I found a style I really liked.
Stable?
And I started to get some very cool images.
Ooh.
I was really happy with how they looked, so all that's left to do was... Oh, God.
code.
Input all
their characteristics.
The animals into the game one
Yeah, exactly.
by one. Anyways, that's my part. Back to you, Yippee.
Now it looked good, but I wanted more. I added accounts and stored player progress. I also wanted to learn how to add payments in a web project. I took this as an opportunity and added the ability to buy coins. Please only buy anything if you want to support and you have extra money. You can play the entire game for free.
Nice.
It does cost me some to host the site and transfer data, mainly the pictures, but I don't expect it to be much, unless y'all blow this up. Here's the finished game.
People are gonna blow it
Logan
up.
charged $300 per egg. After you sign in, I give you enough coins to buy 5. That's
Nice.
$1,500 worth of eggs for free. I know,
Let's go.
I'm incredibly generous. I think it might be fun to turn this into an actual game you play using the cards that you have. Let me know if that's something you want to see, and if so, what you would want it to look like. Maybe something similar to Pokemon, or maybe more like Clash Royale. Until then, you can play it at realzoo.itsyippee.com.
Okay. Please don't be a virus.
Logan
Please don't
Paul
be a
put out
virus.
a response while I was editing this. He's suggesting they never stopped development on CryptoZoo.
Even after 12 months
2023.
of work, you still managed to overlook one crucial piece of information. See, even though I've said it's coming so many times, you've assumed that CryptoZoo isn't being made. Who are you to decide when the development timeline ends?
It took me hours to make the game.
It took me hours. It didn't take you hours. It looked like it took you a few days. But all right, let's do this. We got ourselves an egg. I'm just gonna create an account real quick. Log in. Do I have to use? Can I just? Okay. I have to use a Gmail account. Oh, you suck. All right. Okay. 1 egg. I got me. Okay, I don't want any more of these. Okay, I want something different than an orca, please. Yeah, zebra. Whoa. A frog. Hey, this one's rare. Daily yield 500. Oh yeah. Okay, it's starting to get expensive. This is all getting very pricey. Ooh, a fox. Uncommon. Whoa, a rare turtle. Okay. And I can't get any more. Cost me $1 for 80 coins. Okay, so now what? I want to breed my rare frog with my rare turtle. I go like this. Breed. A rare fertile? Whoa! Daily yield 500 to 2,550. Yow. Oh geez. Okay, so let's breed the orca with the zebra. Can I breed it with the? No, I can't. Okay, with the zebra. Okay. And a zorka. Oh, I want me one of those. I got me a zirkle. Or a fruital. All right, what's next? Do we breed the orcas together? I kind of like the fox. The fox is cute. Maybe let's just breed the orcas together and see what happens. We're gonna. I feel like I'm just gonna get another orca. So let's actually do it with the fox. A forca? Yeah, that was the right choice. Look at that. That's crazy. Now, do we breed the orca with the zorka? Choices, chat. Choices. Okay, we got a pretty good deck here. And this is accrued 1 already? No, it accrued 0. That it increased and decreased. Okay, so I guess that's all. That's it. We'll let that sit in the background. I don't want to risk breeding the maybe the zorka with the forca. All right, moving on. We've got this clip.
Fox News has a famous or infamous motto. They report.
Maybe not. Let's do this one.
Senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram, though, kicks us off live from Capitol Hill. Chad?
John, good afternoon. The House is now in the middle of a 7th vote for Speaker, but they're going to have an 8th vote. That's because there are enough votes to block Kevin McCarthy on this ballot. Now, just a couple of moments ago, we had a vote by Matt Gaetz for Donald Trump. Keep in mind that the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member. Now, the key in these roll call votes today is for Kevin McCarthy to demonstrate signs of progress. McCarthy has
I
been
like how you had to say that to make it seem more legit.
All at 202 or 201 votes since Tuesday. He needs to get closer to 218. John James, a freshman of Michigan, nominated McCarthy. James said the GOP needs to learn how to win. And then he noted that he's a fan of the Detroit Lions. Now, Dan Bishop of North Carolina nominated Byron Donalds. If the House winds up in another lengthy vote series, members say that shows McCarthy lacks the votes. The problem for McCarthy is making concessions to one side and alienating others. Now, there are demands from McCarthy opponents for positions on key committees. They also reserve the right to call a speaker vote in the middle of the Congress if they don't like McCarthy. Now, here's something to watch. Potential absences that could either help or hurt McCarthy, depending on who is out. 1923, it took 9 votes to elect the Speaker. We're not quite there yet, but in 1923, it also took 3 days. This is day 3. Now, right now on the scoreboard, there are 14 votes against Kevin McCarthy. He can only lose 4 if we're at 434 members voting. And so that's the issue. We're at 14 votes, so we're going to go to an 8th vote here, an 8th vote. The question is whether or not they do that right away. Last night, we had an adjournment for several hours. They came back into session, and then the House adjourned again. They voted to adjourn. You have to have enough votes to adjourn. You had McCarthy allies who wanted the adjournment. Democrats wanted to continue to embarrass McCarthy and show how he didn't have the votes, and they would have teamed with some of the McCarthy opponents. That vote to adjourn passed by 1 vote. It was a very close ballot, so it's unclear if they would even be able to adjourn or be compelled to continue to do this over and over and over again. Keep in mind that the rule is you have to keep voting until you get a Speaker of the House. And 3 days now of not having a House of Representatives fully constituted. John?
All right, Chad Pergram for us, watching all the action on Capitol Hill. Chad, thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Okay, next up. I think we had a clip of AOC.
Joining us now is Democratic Congresswoman from New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, thank you so much for being here on, well, a day that will go down in the history books.
Thank you for having me.
Let's just start with what it was like to bear witness to this Republican fracture firsthand on the floor of Congress. How did you leave the chamber today?
You know, I was honestly surprised. I did not think that Kevin McCarthy was going to have the votes in the first round, but I didn't think that it was going to be as catastrophic for him as it actually was.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that we saw was, we saw that there were reports of there being up to 20 holdouts on the Republican side, except usually in the 24 to 48 hours before a vote, there are a lot of negotiations that happen, and Kevin McCarthy was engaging in some of those negotiations in order to bring that number down. Now, I didn't think he was going to have the vote at all, but we at least thought that that number would be less. But to get into the high teens, in nearly 18, 19 members refusing to support his speakership is an astonishingly high number. And I think it very much speaks to the lack of faith among elected Republicans that they have in Kevin McCarthy's speakership. And for him to have several months since the November elections and still not be able to clinch it, I think is very much a testament to a lack of leadership. And it is very surprising to see that. But in the contrast on the Democratic side, we didn't have a single defection. And that unity is very much going to help us in hopefully being able to secure some procedural wins and take advantage of certain moments.
And I definitely want to return to that topic in terms of the Democratic unity and the conversations that have been happening inside the caucus. But it did not go unnoticed, shall we say, on the internet and elsewhere, that you were on the floor having some conversations with Republicans, including Matt Gaetz and Paul Gosar. Can you enlighten us at all as to what those conversations were like? And is there any hope that you guys work together to get Hakeeeeeeem Jeffries elected as Speaker of the House?
I think in chaos, anything is possible, especially in this era. It is unlikely, but there's always a possibility. I do think that in terms of some of those conversations, listen, some of us in the House of Representatives are independent in certain ways from our party. And I do believe that in some of those conversations, there are things that are happening on the floor. These machinations are happening on the floor. And sometimes the leadership of your party, in this case the Republican Party, will be making claims in order to try to twist arms and get people in line. And a lot of times information and truth is currency. So sometimes to be able to fact check some of the claims that McCarthy is making, whether Democrats are going to defect or not, et cetera, is important in order to keep him honest and to keep people honest in general. And so, I think what was important today was to send the message that we were united behind Hakeeeeeeem Jeffries as the now minority leader or as leader of the Democrats, and that there would be no defections, that Democrats are here, we're not going anywhere, and if they want to play ball, we're open to that.
That's going to make a lot of people, I think, on one side of the aisle very happy and a lot of people on the other side of the aisle very concerned. Is it your sense that there is a plan that the Freedom Caucus has? There's a real question about who's driving who's
Ooh, there's going to be a response video to Logan Paul from Coffeezilla
running the operation here. Who's driving the bus? Is it Kevin McCarthy or is it, Andy Biggs and Paul Gosar and Matt Gaetz?
Well, I think one of the central challenges here is that in Kevin McCarthy's speaker run, within the Republican caucus, there was no number two. The Republican caucus did not really have a full-throated race for speaker. There was no challenger in the last 2 months that has emerged, and I do believe that that is the central Republican problem. Whether McCarthy pulls this through or not, the core concern here is who would ascend to that seat. I do not believe that Kevin McCarthy has the votes. I believe that a lot of the opposition to him is very personal. I believe his leadership style is incompatible with a lot of Republican members and certainly the Democratic caucus. And so I think that is the central question. If not him, then who? You have certain members of the Freedom Caucus who have, of course, nominated other people, but the rest of the Republican Party will not rally, I believe. They will not.
Apparently, the clip, like the interview of Andrew Callahan with NPR, didn't go well. Wait, what?
What did you want to get from Alex Jones? The drinking with him while he lifted weights? I'm serious. This is one of the most despicable Americans in our history. How do you think the Sandy Hook parents would feel about drinking with him?
Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
Well, the lawyer, Mark Bankston, who represented most of the Sandy Hook families, loved the scene. He told me that he thought the film was great.
What did you want to get?
Wow, Terry Gross. Wait, what? Man, he's been getting attacked by every media outlet that he goes on.
Not coalesce under Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan himself doesn't want it. They will not coalesce under someone like Andy Biggs. And so the question is there anyone in their caucus that can build that consensus? If there isn't, McCarthy's team may have to come to the Democratic Party. And if that's the case, then what would that even look like? It's rather unprecedented. Could it result in a potential coalition government? Could we get Democratic chairs of committees as a result? We don't know. But ultimately, what we saw here today is that in the last 2 months and now, Kevin McCarthy failed to unite his caucus and failed to even, I think he failed to respect the power of the Freedom Caucus enough as well. They are members of his party in order to build that coalition together. He failed as a coalition builder not once, not twice, but 3 times. And we reconvene tomorrow morning. And I'm not quite sure what he could or would do that would change the calculus between today and tomorrow.
And that's a huge question.
We found a version of Logan Paul's game that you can play for free. It's called realzoo.itsyippy. You get eggs and you can breed them. It's surprisingly entertaining. And they get yields. I don't know if you can turn the yield back into money, but he gives you enough coins to like get started. It's kind of fun. And yeah, we're gonna be watching the day 5. What are we? Day 4?
And we know that approximately 7,000 boxes of pizza were delivered to McCarthy's office, which suggests it's going to be a long night of negotiating. You suggested that Democrats are open to any overtures from McCarthy's office. Have there been any? Are you at liberty to say whether there are even preemptive conversations going on?
Now, I think open is a generous term. I'm not saying necessarily that our party is signaling in openness just yet, but really it's about the cards that are in McCarthy's hands. And if he chooses to approach the Democratic caucus, then that would be a negotiation in and of itself for potential coalition government. But again, this is very much an unprecedented time. In your opening, you discussed what happened in 1855. The last time this happened was in 1923. And so we really have not seen many times in American history. And it is not a coincidence that they are times of division, times of extraordinary strife, disenfranchisement, and inequality. And I think that these are things that the Republican caucus is very much contending with. I also want to note that
part of what I find fascinating about this story is how it mirrors like what's happening in Canada's politics on the right wing. It's funny and annoying in a way. Yeah, it's both those things in equal measure. It's both funny because they clearly don't have their shit together, and they probably should, and they brought it on themselves. It's the face-eating leopards party joke, but also sad and annoying in that like, it's the most powerful country in the world, like absolutely crippled by like 10 people. Like what?
Some of the requests made by these Republican holdouts are also small d Democratic in nature in terms of the rules of the House. Over a very long period of time, the concentration of power in the House of Representatives has concentrated to an extraordinary amount in party leadership of both parties.
She's spitting, and it's true for the executive as well. Like the executive branch has started to secure quite a lot of powers, and that's why you saw so many things happening with the executive orders.
And what we see from the House Freedom Caucus is their attempt, however guided, misguided, destructive, constructive, whatever your perspective is, they are making attempts to reform the rules of the House in a way that would dilute McCarthy or the Speaker's power and elevate the power of individual members in the House. And that, I think, is an essential crux that is part of the rub here in their inability to create an agreement.
So she's saying, in far simpler terms, that, part of the right wing wants to have a more populist angle. They want the average, the Joe Schmo first term Congress critter to have a lot more power than the Speaker of the House. I don't know if that's going to happen.
So, if McCarthy really wants this...
Do conservatives like hierarchy? I can't remember. Can't remember if conservatives are really big into hierarchy or not.
He really needs to look at how he can get to the 218 that he needs. And you got to find that math somewhere. If you can't get those votes from the House Freedom Caucus, and he has provided many, many, many concessions, and it's just not working out.
Yeah, some of the concessions
I got to ask you, Getting concessions from leadership can be done in many ways, and the House Republican Freedom Caucus has chosen a pretty public and fractious way to gain concessions. What happened on the Democratic side of the aisle in terms of this unbelievable unity in a very big tent party? I mean,
isn't the better question, like, how did this play out when you were a first-term Congress? Like, because I remember AOC was part of the squad, and they were using this type of moment to try to gain a bunch of concessions for progressive values and for the constituencies, and eventually they fell in line, right? Like they eventually had to not I can't remember how they voted. I'm pretty sure that AOC voted for Nancy Pelosi. So that I'm interested to hear like how that played out.
what was the conversation like between parts of the Democratic Party that are much further left, much more progressive than some of this more centrist leadership, and in particular, Hakeeeeeeem Jeffries, the new leader? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that are happening right now. One is that in order for us to take advantage of the fracturing on the Republican side, we have to operate as a full entire bloc. This margin is extraordinarily slim. We're talking about a margin of 4 votes. And so if they get to a point where they lose 4 or 5 votes and we stay 100% united, then there are possibilities where if it's not this vote, it could be other votes. There are procedural moments in the House where you can prevent, in their case, catastrophic legislation from coming to the floor if we remain united. I think some of these conversations...
It's also interesting to see that Democrats they know what they're doing. They're so confident in their strategy, they can go talk about it on mainstream news.
Coming forward is an acknowledgement of the severity of this point in history. We are talking about a very real danger in a Republican-controlled House, and that could mean that a very narrow, slim margin of 4 to 5 votes could have implications on whether we can raise a debt ceiling. It could have implications even on the 2024 election. And January 6th was all about the refusal to certify.
January 6th. Speaking of which, I think there was something live happening. I had a live clip on background. Let's see here. Let's see how that's doing. January 6th. Okay, live event ended. But there was like a remembrance event. Let's see what that looked like. Oh yeah, and Hakeeeeeem Jeffries was there he is with Nancy Pelosi. Hot mic. Remembering January 6th. It's so bizarre. At the same time that Republicans are unable to choose a Speaker of the House. Democrats are just normal state of affairs.
Oh, I thought you meant he was the best.
Oh, look at all that. What's up? Show up. Hey, I recognize you.
Sometimes I want
Kids like it? Your kids like it?
All right, let's really speed this up. There we go.
Good morning.
Up. The allegiance. Okay.
Representatives and public for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today, members of the House of Representatives, in a bipartisan way, pause in solemn recognition of the violent attack on the Capitol that occurred 2 years ago on January 6, 2021. We are joined by the families of several heroic police officers who gave their lives protecting the Congress, the Constitution, and the country. We are gathered here to honor their memory and acknowledge with deep gratitude the tremendous bravery of the hundreds of officers who defended us at this citadel of democracy that fateful day. As a result of the events on January 6th, the lives of 5 heroic officers were lost. Another brave Capitol Police officer lost his life defending the Capitol on April 2nd, 2021. 140 officers were seriously injured that day. Many more will forever be scarred by the bloodthirsty violence of the insurrectionist mob. We stand here today with our democracy intact because of those officers. The violent insurrectionists stormed the Capitol and attempted to halt the peaceful transfer of power, a cornerstone of our republic. They failed. They failed because of the bravery and valor of the United States Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police Department officers who fought heroically to defend our democracy. We will never forget their sacrifice, and we will never forget this day. It is now my honor to yield to our Speaker Emerita, who led the House of Representatives on that fateful day with strength, courage, and resilience, Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi.
D'Alessandro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. Thank you for having your first official public act be one to be a moment of reflection, a time of reflection and gratitude to our heroes. I associate myself, as I'm sure all of our colleagues gathered here, with your remarks and singing their praises. The January 6th insurrection shook our republic to the core. For many in the Congress and across our country, the physical, psychological, and emotional scars are still raw. Yet from the unspeakable horror sprang extraordinary heroism. Law enforcement heroes confronted the insurrectionists to protect the Capitol, the Congress, and our Constitution. And it's with great respect and admiration that we are joined by the families this morning. Thank you to the families for considering us worthy to share your grief, to honor your loss. When we had the gold medal ceremony, the highest honor the Congress can bestow, I said at that time, your acceptance of that gold medal in honor of your family members' courage brought luster to the medal. We always pray for God to bless America, and he certainly did with the heroism of these heroes. As we mark this solemn day, let us draw strength and inspiration from the timeless words of President Lincoln. In his message to Congress he offered in the heat of the Civil War, he said, "We cannot escape history," and he called upon Congress to honor our sacred duty to nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope on earth, which he believed was American democracy. That is our task today, too, so help us God. And then now we will, in short order, hear from the families of our heroes, and we thank them for their sacrifice, for their patriotism. We will always carry the memory of their family members in our hearts, and our tribute is also to those who suffered psychologically and otherwise protecting our democracy. I thank all of our colleagues for joining us here on the steps of the Capitol, but we always carry this memory in our hearts. Thank you.
I'm kind of hungry, so I'm just going to...
Would you pray with me?
Be back.
God is our refuge and our strength.
Oh, God. Let's get the prayer.
Foam of God.
Oh,
That
boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, man. This is bad content. I don't know. Hakeeeeeeeem Jeffries. All right, let's see if he can do something. These are some of the...
Brian David Sicknick.
Yeah, please. Yeah, it's one of the police officers you know.
Howard Charles Liebengood.
Oh, damn, this is grim. Okay, maybe we pick something else. This is really grim. Jesus. Okay, I'm just buying time. We've got the 5 agreeing with AOC.
Welcome
Could AOC
to
be right?
Groundhog Day, America. The
Groundhog
speaker's
Day.
stalemate on Capitol Hill showing no signs of stopping, and it's unclear who will blink first. Republicans are locked in a fierce battle over who should hold the gavel. The House taking a break until 8 p.m. after Kevin McCarthy lost his 6th vote for Speaker. Republicans backing him say, enough with the nonsense. It's time to move forward so they can go after Joe Biden.
This 20's gotten together and decided that they can not only blackmail the Republican conference, in effect, they're blackmailing the American people.
There's headlines about the chaos, this and that. Yesterday, our colleagues on the other side of the aisle were tweeting their bags of popcorn that they had out. They love it.
I plead with all of my Republican colleagues, let cooler, more rational heads prevail.
I've had a number of conversations with Kevin and just basically told him that at some point this needs to break loose. He either needs to make a deal or he needs to step aside and give somebody else a chance to do that.
But the 20-plus Republicans who oppose Kevin McCarthy aren't giving up.
I think the path is very difficult right now for Kevin. At the core of this is, yes, we were successful in taking back the majority, but we still have to deal with the realities of governing here in Washington. And a 1-day delay or a 2-day delay, even a 3-day delay, does not stop us from being able to do the things that we were elected to do.
And the Democrats smell an opportunity. AOC thinks the Republican infighting could potentially open the door for her party to gain some extra power.
Is there anyone in their caucus that can build that consensus? If there isn't, McCarthy's team may have to come to the Democratic Party. And if that's the case, then what would that even look like? Could we get Democratic chairs of committees as a result? If he chooses to approach the Democratic caucus, then that would be a negotiation in and of itself for a potential coalition government.
Okay, Greg, I'll start with you on this political issue.
Well, first,
I haven't asked the question.
I don't need a question. I already have my strong feelings. This is not Groundhog Day at all. It's the opposite of Groundhog Day. Because in the movie, he actually got better. Remember, every day? This is the opposite. He's not, no one's learning anything. It's anti-Groundhog Day. Poor Kevin McCarthy, he's lost more ballots than a Democratic poll worker. So, sue me. Anyway, I'm starting to change my mind on this. I want it to go on forever. It's like an extra inning game that, like, when it's on, you go, it's at the 22nd inning, you wanted to go to 27, you want to go to, how long could this go?
Why?
It's like a horrifying spectacle. But it's also hypnotic, and everybody says, oh, you know, what is it? Democracy is messy. Oh, stop it. Everybody knows this is just a pain. But I love how the Democrats act like this is some kind of catastrophe. Maybe, but it's self-contained, right? It's self-contained. It's not affecting Americans, the way Afghanistan or the border or inflation. So at least, when Republicans have a firing squad, it's circular. But the Democrats shoot everybody. So I like that. And here's my last point. I have a theory that this is all being
127 speaker elections since 1789? Yeah. 6 of those 14 elections were decided on the second or third ballot, but others took more than that. The longest election finally ending after nearly 2 months and 133 ballots. Oh, I guess I was wrong. Oh man, this is a long article. John W. Bell, 10 ballots in the 22nd Congress. They had to go back. This is deep, deep lore. William Pennington won his first congressional term in 1859 and as a Republican with support from disaffected Democrats. This goes deep. This is like a paper you would submit for a history class. 11 ballots, 1/18th. And this is the McCarthy one. And the last time that happened was 60 Congress. That's so long ago. Wow. During his 1923 bid, he faced a rebellion from the progressive wing of the Republican Party in a closely divided House. After 3 days of voting, Gillett was able to secure enough Republican support on the 9th ballot. He received 215 votes. Yikes.
Done because it's like they love to revert to being college kids pulling an all-nighter. So this is just an excuse to order 50 pizzas and make us pay for it.
Oh, well, that certainly explains it. Thank you, Greg. Dana, how long do you think McCarthy stays on? Look, he's been voted. He hasn't been able to get to 218 in 6 votes. Yeah. And Victoria Sparks now is voting present twice. She says that she's doing that because she wants a discussion. So why do they just keep voting? Do they think that God's going to come down and say, everybody change your vote?
And she was quite close with Kevin McCarthy, and so that one's got to hurt. But I think, Ken Buck, you also heard him say, at some point, guys, we have to do something. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of democracy. It's been 2 days, and it could go for a few more, but it probably won't. I think today there was no movement towards Kevin McCarthy. There was a slight movement back. So they're a little bit at a stalemate.
Okay, we got C-SPAN. We got calls coming in from North Carolina. It's the best part of C-SPAN. I love your call-in.
They're never going to get a Democratic candidate as the speaker for the next 2 years. So if they want to get back to the business, they're going to, they would basically set these 20 off to the side and elect Kevin McCarthy, get back to the business of our country.
Okay, and Ken, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in.
Wait.
C-SPAN is your unfiltered view of government. We're funded by these television companies and more, including Comcast.
She couldn't even do
think
like...
this is just a community center?
It's an ad.
It's way...
Wait, since when does C-SPAN have ads? I'm confused. What is happening? Does C-SPAN need ads to pay for its live streams? I thought it was like government funded.
Giving you a front row seat.
Oh, God. Oh, geez. Oh, no. Make it stop. Okay, we're going...
A look inside the House chamber at the U.S. Capitol on day 4 of the 118th Congress. House lawmakers returning at noon Eastern with a speaker still to be decided. For the last 3 days, Kevin McCarthy has been unsuccessful in swaying enough members of his own party to support his bid for the speaker's gavel. And that could change today with news of a potential deal in the works.
Oh.
This from the Hill newspaper. Representative Kevin McCarthy said on a Republican conference call Friday morning that he's made progress on negotiations with Congressman Chip Roy of Texas and others who have not been supporting him for Speaker. The Hill noting the deal is not finalized with all the holdouts, and McCarthy stressed that the deal was still tentative. Conflicting reports, the Hill notes, emerged at the start of that call about whether McCarthy and Roy had even reached a deal. McCarthy clarified on that call that there hadn't been a final deal and told members to stop leaking details of the call to the press and calling for reporters to get off the call. This from Scott Wong of NBC News, a similar report, tweeting out, "No deal yet," as McCarthy briefs members on that conference call. He's laying out parameters of a deal, but no true deal yet, said a GOP lawmaker. What did McCarthy and Roy agree to? Quote, nothing. They agreed to work on it. That, according to another lawmaker. And this from Manu Raju of CNN. McCarthy has struck a more gracious and positive tone on that conference call, but said there's no agreement yet and that they're in a good position. He and his allies have walked through the emerging deal. Manu Raju going on to say, he said that the rules package presented is staying the same, and the only change is the threshold to allow one member to
One
call for
member.
a motion to vacate the chair and replace the
Crazy.
speaker.
Crazy.
When the House convenes at noon today, it's likely there's going to be a 12th vote for Speaker. This has already become the longest Speaker election since 1859. Back then, it required 44 ballots. As long as 434 members are voting for a nominee, the magic number for becoming Speaker remains 218. Olivia Beavers of Politico reporting this morning that Congressman-elect Wesley Hunt, the freshman of Texas, flew back home this morning, according to our source. He's been voting for Kevin McCarthy throughout the process.
Did she lose
and
vote?
she also reported that Congressman Ken Buck of Colorado, who also has been supporting Kevin McCarthy, is expected to be back today. Ken Buck, missing the last 3 votes yesterday, reports that he went back to Colorado for a scheduled medical procedure. A reminder, if a member is absent or votes present, that will lower the threshold needed to become a speaker. Live coverage now on C-SPAN of the House floor as members gather. And remember, if you need to step away from your TV at any point today, you can follow on the go with the free C-SPAN Now video app. Live coverage of the House floor.
That's Stepanek. It's like maniacal laughter. Just gonna turn it down a bit. Is that Clyburn? He looks very unimpressed. Look at Matt Gaetz. He's trying to convince someone to something. Oh god, a streamer's nightmare. I got parsley stuck in my teeth. Not parsley. Okay, let's check back in on this. Okay, we had something else lined up. Maybe we can try to watch the Andrew Callahan NPR interview while we wait.
NPR every day. So it's great to be here.
Well, now hopefully we get you to listen.
I would.
But it is a big deal to go from, getting drunk with people to say that they slept with their cousins, to doing a film on one of the most important days in American history. So
It's in there.
this audience laughed their
It's
butts
in
off,
there.
And then that provoked another question, which is, okay, so you're saying that I did this for sheer, pull somebody in, for the clicks, for the eyes. Are you exploiting them?
No, well, I mean, first of all, both of them already are major influencers themselves.
Exploiting themselves, yeah.
Not exploiting themselves. I mean, Gum Gang enjoys doing stunts. He lives in Central Florida. That's how he supports his family. He shoots himself in the test square with potato guns, smokes out of a fish, makes music. Joker Gang's a pretty successful tattoo model. They're both friends of mine. They wanted to fight. I just kind of stepped in to document something that's already happening. So I don't really film people who aren't already filming themselves.
Well, and this idea, that is a fight.
Smoke him if you got him.
I guess my next question is, and I do want to get to some of these incredible moments like the QAnon family, but
I haven't seen this movie yet.
there's a real whiff of false equivalency. We constantly see these insurrectionists who have been told not just that the election was false, but that Democrats rape babies and then eat them. They're pitted constantly against Antifa and Black Lives Matters protesters when we know that Antifa is a stunningly small kind of gathering without a leader movement, and the Black Lives Matters protests, by every study, were 93% peaceful. And so you're setting up this, and I know that's where the tension was, on the streets, but is that kind of a false equivalence?
It's not what the movie's about. The movie's not the movie's not about far left versus far right at all.
It feels that way.
It's not.
Wow.
What is it about?
Terry Gross missing the point.
First of all,
That's rare.
It's first of all about media echo chambers, how people got radicalized and forced into tight digital echo chambers before the Capitol riot. But there's not much really Antifa featured in here. There's some centrist protesters. There's some anarchists featured, but it's not really about that. And
Well,
what part made you feel that way?
Just that I kept seeing it, Antifa and all the alt-right, colliding into each other when we just know Antifa in particular is so tiny. And when we know the stats about the right, we know that 40% of Americans believe that the election was stolen. That's a big number.
Yeah.
And 30% of...
I think that's what this movie's mostly about, is following the right wing. I think following the fringe left would be a separate thing. But the point is that most conservatives, especially during that time, believed the election was stolen. Whereas Antifa, or the radical left, if you want to call it, is a very small portion of what you would consider liberal. But the problem is...
You do say that, Phil.
Yeah, what I'm kind of framing is that right-wing media... They used Antifa as the ultimate straw man. Like Tucker Carlson referred to Antifa as paramilitary groups of Joe Biden voters. Whereas MSNBC, I'm not even going to name anybody, but I'm just going to say centrist liberal media wants to make it seem like they don't exist and like all the protests were peaceful. But my question is, what's the problem with non-peaceful protests? Why the constant emphasis on the protests were mostly peaceful? Why not talk to the people involved in the non-peaceful protests and actually figure out what's on their mind, as opposed to trying to categorize everything as completely peaceful to prove a political point? Because the anger and the tension was there. So no, I don't think the movie is trying to frame Antifa versus the Proud Boys at all. I think it's more of it's following a I think my movie follows a conglomerate of InfoWars subscribers, Oath Keepers, 3%ers, Proud Boys, and general QAnon lore followers, and it shows them mobilizing in public, and the people that show up.
He's so well spoken. Okay, House session is in order. Oh, of course. Yeah, here we go.
The chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House the approval thereof. Representatives elect are invited to join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance still?
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York seek recognition?
Madam Clerk, a point of order. There's not a quorum present.
Wait, what?
The gentlewoman makes a point of order that a quorum is not present.
There's no
The
quorum?
chair will count for a quorum.
Wait, what? No. Where is it, quorum? Where is everybody? What is happening? What is going on? Dang. What is going on? This is really dysfunctional. There's also this great clip.
Democrats, for any circumstance, I assure you that if Democrats join up to elect a moderate Republican, I will resign from the House of Representatives. That is how certain I am. I can assure your viewers that won't happen.
Are you?
So, for any circumstance, I assure you that if Democrats join up to elect a moderate Republican, I will resign from the House of Representatives. That is how certain I am. I can assure your viewers.
A boy can dream. Got quorum.
Quorum call has been made by GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik. Members of the clerk staff counting the number of members present. Kevin McCarthy is on the House floor and meeting with members now. And we wait for that quorum call to be official. And as we wait, reports from various congressional media about what may or may not happen today. Chad Pergram of Fox News, their Capitol Hill bureau chief, saying that there's a low chance that the House Speaker drama will end today, according to his sources. Other members of the congressional media, Sahil Kapoor of NBC News, quoting Republican Congressman Patrick McHenry, a close ally of Kevin McCarthy, saying, "I feel better today than yesterday and the day before, so the trend is our friend," but saying that there's no deal yet. One more from Nicholas Wu of Politico, saying that House Democrats have once again said that they will vote against a motion to adjourn if it's offered. That's according to a notice from the whip's office. So Democrats want to.
George Santos does the OK symbol, the white nationalist symbol. That's not very good. That's what we call bad look. Newly elected freshman Representative George Santos of New York makes white power gesture as he casts his vote. Very odd. Everything about this guy. You're supposed to be staying out of the news. You all got the best news break you could have hoped for. Just as you're exposed for not being like who you say you are. Mr. CIA agent. And here you are flashing white power symbols? Like, what the fuck? Huh. Do you buy it? Is he doing that to signal to a white power base? Oh my god, the chaos. I can't believe they don't have quorum. Can they, is it just gonna go on and there won't be what is it, 12th vote that we're on? We won't get a 12th vote because there won't be enough people to vote, and then that'll be the Friday session. Just waiting for people to come in on airplanes that have been delayed. Huh. All right, should we continue on with the Andrew Callahan interview? NPR? He was spitting. Yeah, I don't know. Very sus. Very sus. Okay, back in session. Man, watching Congress is always such a wild ride. It's like going back to high school. Order! Order!
The House will be in order. The chair counts 275 members present. A quorum is present.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Off to the races. I elect Kevin McCarthy for the 12th time.
The question recurs upon the election of a speaker. The tellers will please come forward and take their seats.
The tellers. Oh, yay, oh, yay. You think this will be it? They figured it out overnight. Kevin McCarthy wheeled and dealed. Won over the last 10. No, I want you up there. I say we elect Donald Trump to be Speaker of the House. Right, we also have an interview. Kevin McCarthy did an interview like in a scrum. So while we wait, let's try to pull clips of that. There's nothing funnier than watching journalists be like, "Are you sure you're in control? Are you sure you're in control?"
Going to get more than other. So it's not one side's going to get more than other. It's the entire conference is going to have to learn how to work together. So it's better that we go through this process right now so we can achieve the things we want to achieve for the American public, what our commitment was. So if this takes a little longer and it doesn't meet your deadline, that's okay. Because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. If you finish well, so it's not
the House.
Here. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, everybody. Kevin McCarthy. He's going to bring it home. Just needs one more vote. Again.
The gentleman is recognized.
One more time.
And while I rise to that end, I think it's critically important to note that this is actually not about Kevin McCarthy.
Oh, no?
Kevin is a good man. He's a man of God. He's a patriot. He's a leader who has led this conference to our current majority over the last 4 years.
He's a patriot, brother.
Those things are unassailable. But this isn't about him. This isn't about Kevin McCarthy.
No?
I put no single human being on a pedestal, and certainly not before God and not before the gift that he has blessed us with this grand experiment that we call the United States of America. This isn't about Kevin McCarthy.
Bringing a tear to my eye.
But the matters before us are of stupendous magnitude. A federal republic such as ours, it's a dynamically unstable one. It's a wobbly top that's just a few mere revolutions away from falling down at any given moment, except for the exertions of men and women who are willing to serve her with pure and selfless intent, just as our founding fathers did, just as Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan did with pure and selfless intent. And as our nation today and over the last 2 years has seen, we are certainly a wobbly top. Today we have a southern border that is wide open. As a result of that and as a result of our executive branch policies, today 200 fellow Americans will die of fentanyl poisoning, and roughly
Bro, why?
5,000 illegal immigrants will be victims of human smuggling. Today, our nation's debt is $31 trillion, and that will go up, just in this day alone, by roughly $2.1 billion. Today, we are seeing one of the worst crime spikes in our nation's history. Our law enforcement are direly underfunded, and they are hurting. And on that topic, I want to thank our law enforcement. I want to especially thank the Capitol Hill Police for what they do. We thank them not only for what they've done,
Here.
our police also serve with that pure and selfless intent. They do it every day, and we should thank them every day. Today, the Chinese Communist Party will orchestrate the theft of another $1 billion of intellectual property from American companies. And the Chinese Communist Party is still today not being held accountable for the deaths of millions of people around this planet, deaths as a result of a genocide within their borders, and deaths as a result of COVID outside them. We are today losing on multiple fronts against China. So today isn't about a single human being. It's not about Kevin McCarthy. It's about the 13 Gold Star families who still suffer today mercifully, without closure and without accountability, after the unnecessary loss of their loved ones in Afghanistan over a year ago. And today, speaking of our military, today roughly 40 active duty and veterans of our military will commit suicide. These, Madam Clerk, these are the matters of stupendous magnitude. This isn't about a man in a suit in the halls of Congress. It's about 330 million Americans. It's about the preservation of the Constitution and the liberties guaranteed therein. It's about the 246 years of pride and providence that we have enjoyed as a nation. And above all things, it's about ensuring that this beautiful journey exists for generations to come. That doesn't happen if we don't address and rise above the multiple existential crises that we experience today. We must be victorious in this cause, and victory begins with allowing this body to get to work. It begins today. Now, winning isn't easy, okay? Winning isn't easy, but winning is necessary. And of all folks in this chamber, I know that winning isn't easy. I represent where only 29% of my voters are registered in the same party as I. But I engage and I communicate with the other 71% because it's the only way that we all win. And in the end, it's the only way that the nation wins. It ain't easy, but it's necessary. But the noble wins, the most important wins, never are easy. But we take on these missions just as passionately as Colonel Chamberlain did at Little Round Top in Gettysburg. We must hold this line, because if we don't hold this line, the entire Union is at stake. We don't hold the majority for bragging rights. We hold the majority to govern responsibly. We hold the majority to protect the American people, to coalesce around the foundational constitutional principles that I've been willing to give my life to defend since the age of 18. To my Democrat colleagues across the aisle, I want to make sure you understand and make no mistake. We are, in fact, on the verge of a very important victory. A victory for the people, a victory by the people, and most importantly, a victory for the future of our nation. And it dawns on me as I look across the aisle after being here for nearly 3 years that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting many of you because you've chosen to stay at home and not vote here in person, and electing instead to proxy vote.
Sorry, what?
The member-elect is reminded to direct his remarks to the chair.
Well, it's a pleasure to see 212 of you here today. It's also a pleasure to see the end of the proxy voting. And let me end with this. Let me end with this. I'm extremely proud of my colleagues on this side of the aisle. The last 4 days, they haven't been ideal. They've been difficult. But I do see fighters. I see patriots who love this country and want to make things better. I see folks who are willing to do whatever is necessary to ensure that we better serve the nation.
You're just fighting amongst yourself,
I see
though.
men and women who are willing to serve her with that pure and selfless intent, even if that service means undergoing the dentistry that we've experienced over the last 4 days and in the wake of the last 20 meetings over the last 2 months. Let me be clear, these are not concessions to the rules. These are critical evolution of the rules for the good of the nation. And I'm proud that we as a party have decided and been willing to extend the time aperture so that we can get to a solution, a product of compromise, but also a product that will fix the ills induced by the Democrat majority over the last 4 years. And this product will hopefully end the multifaceted legacy of reckless and toxic behavior in the swamp. And so this isn't about Kevin McCarthy. It's not about the 434 members in this chamber. It's about the 330 million Americans across this beautiful land, and it's about our nation's future. The person who will lead us on that journey will be Kevin McCarthy. He has earned this position, and I have the honor of nominating him at the direction of the Republican Conference as the Speaker of the House of the 118th Congress. God bless the United States.
Here. How do you do?
For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate my friend, colleague, and leader of the House Democratic Caucus, Hakeeeeeeeem Jeffries, for Speaker of the United States.
The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Clerk, I want to begin by thanking you for your contribution to maintaining the dignity and honor of this august body, the eyes of the country.
I miss it, but I think I'm gonna end stream actually. You'll have to watch this. It's a bit slow. I'm running out of commentary, and I'm gonna move on with my day. Check up on my little froggies. Okay. I got some stuff to do. I gotta get ready for the slam tomorrow. So I'll see you all later. But bye everyone.